Hello, good people, and welcome to the Higher Living Podcast. Welcome to episode 15. Today we have in studio with us quite an interesting gentleman, a gentleman who I've known for quite some time, over 15 years. And for the past 15 years, I've been following this gentleman on social media, and we've met from time to time. And I've watched him grow from an aspiring entrepreneur to a massive, successful business owner who dominated the industries that they're in. I've seen this man grow from a guy that I used to see walking down the corridors to a man that's now internationally recognized as a thought leader. He's a mentor to many successful business people, and he's also a specialist when it comes to learning development, human capital, and also funding massive projects and businesses. So without further ado, Willie Maritz, welcome to the High Living Podcast. It's our absolute privilege to have you on the show, sir.
Good morning, Sean, and thanks for that very generous introduction.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember the first few years of when, or for the first time where that we were acquainted. I was a spring chicken that had just joined the workforce, the working world, and I was very green, very bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. And every now and then we'd have this guy come to the office, and he'd walk around the office, and he was always dressed very suave, looked very sophisticated. He had this office in Rosebank. And at that point in time, it was very surreal for me to be around somebody like you, because it was so far beyond the realm of what I ever imagined I could be. And coming to your office and the furs and your setup and the way that you run things, it was really, really inspirational. But Willie, the way I'd like to start the session with you today is really just to understand the Willie Maritz story. I mean, where did you come from? How has your career progressed? And how have you now got to, be living in the UAE and be conquering the world on that side?
Yeah, thanks, Sean. I started my career after I graduated. I tried to start a business, which was not very successful, and then eventually entered a corporate career. I worked for De Beers Group for a number of years in human resources primarily. And in about 2003, I decided to try my hand at entrepreneurship again. And at the time, online learning was quite a new concept, but a very exciting concept. And I thought that would be a good thing to get into, because I've always been really passionate about developing people. And I thought this was a really good way to scale people development opportunities. So I started a company called Kaleo Learning at the time, and we did a combination of consulting, helping companies to get started with e-learning. We also then started doing some bespoke content development, and also started importing and representing some tools and technology in the industry. And Kaleo Learning from there grew to diversify a bit into different business units, and became Kaleo People Group. And I think we grew Kaleo People Group to be quite a well-known brand and dominant player in the e-learning industry across Africa and Middle East. We had a presence there as well. And I eventually sold Kaleo in, I think, 2017, and also sold another company, Talentech, 2019. And that brought me to the UAE, where I decided to do this again and start two more exciting projects.
Yeah, and I know you're a diehard entrepreneur. I know it's in your blood. But tell me, every entrepreneur and every company they start has some sort of meaning. Why did you name the first company Kaleo? Did that have any significance?
Interesting question. Yeah, Kaleo is actually the Latin word for learn by doing. And so yes, it had significance for me. learning, the best way to learn is actually by doing and failing and adjusting and reflecting. So yes, that's where it comes from.
Okay. And there's many people out there that are currently in a permanent job, and they have this entrepreneurial spirit, and they're looking at the risk. One has to have a certain risk appetite to leave the comfort of a permanent job and all of the stability, in inverted commas, that brings. When you were making the jump, was it a daunting jump for you to make?
Yeah, it was definitely daunting. I think it's a daunting jump for anybody who chooses to do that. But simultaneously, it was also very exciting, and in a way, I think I was probably overconfident at the time as well. I thought, I think sometimes you look at business people, and I personally was inspired by other business people, and I thought that actually looks quite easy. I think I can do this as well, and so I took the jump with probably a little bit inflated confidence, and very soon learned that it's actually not that easy. And it really took hard work and adjustment and self-development and self-reflection and dedication, and having to move through the tough times. It was not an easy journey, but absolutely worthwhile and fulfilling.
Yeah, and so much of that journey makes one doubt oneself, and I'm sure you've also had that thought many times of, oh, shouldn't I just go back and start working again? And often, the first part of the question is, did you have that thought a few times?
Yes, absolutely. When I speak to people about entrepreneurship, I always try to give people the reality as well, and not just try and position myself or position entrepreneurship as this thing that you do and become very successful and go out there and do it. It also comes with a lot of challenges and failures, and certainly in my journey, I've had quite a few failures and been through tough times where I really, it knocked my confidence, and I had to reset myself, and I often depended a lot on people around me to also kind of reflect back to me, but to basically say to me, but hang on, you're doing well, keep going. There's definitely been a few instances where I really doubted myself, and I really thought that I'm failing, and wondered why did I do this, but yeah, every time you go through this and you get through a tough journey, you feel stronger, and you know that you are more competent than what you were before to tackle the next challenge.
Absolutely, and what I find is when you hit those points where you start to question why you did this, and things get really challenging. That's when the importance of the why, like you mentioned now, the why do you do this? Why have you done this? And then it brings into question the power of why. And I think that for any aspiring entrepreneurs, that's the first question that one needs to ask oneself is why? Why am I doing this? And what is that belief system that will keep me going? And is that belief system strong enough to keep me going through the darkness?
Yes, absolutely. I think, for better or for worse, many entrepreneurs do what they do because of the lure of financial gains and wealth. But honestly, I think that it's not a good motivator, because I think when things are tough and you're not making the money that you think you want to be making, then you need something else to really inspire you. So for me, it has always been very important to have a very clear why. And there's a famous quote, I'm not sure even from whom, and it basically says, when things get tough, the why is the thing that keeps you going. Do things that are worth doing. So especially now, again, in the two businesses that I started in the last 2 years, both of these businesses for me have a very clear why, and for both of them, I said to myself, they must be worth doing. Whether I make money out of this or not, it must be worth doing. So that's, I think it's a core thing. And when things are not working out the way you expect them to work out, that's what you go back to and say, it's tough. The results are not yet what I expect it to be, but it's worth doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, I think with failing, especially as an entrepreneur, with failure and having businesses that fail, and like you say, you learn, you develop, you grow, and you move on to the next venture with insight, I think that also leads one to become wiser. And eventually one realizes that the way the universe works is that when you chase something, it typically runs away from you. So if you are waking up every morning and you're chasing money, for example, you find that it clouds the way that you operate, it clouds the purity in which you deliver your service or your product, and you essentially push it further and further away. But if you focus on delivering value, adding value, and ensuring that what you do to the best of your ability with the right intentions, the money sorts itself out.
Absolutely. I can't agree with you more. When you focus too much on money, there are a lot of other things that come in play. And I've seen this so many times around me in the business world, even when an entrepreneur is pushing their salespeople and the sales team too strongly on revenue and money, ethics tend to get fly out of the window, integrity flies out of the window, mission and purpose fly out of the window. So we have to be very careful about what we use to inspire our teams. Money is certainly not a sustainable way, and quite often too much focus on money will drive us away from the core values and purpose.
Yeah, it's an interesting point because I think there's this balance point between also not taking your foot off the gas completely, but also not putting your foot down on your team so much that you disempower them and all those things that you've mentioned, and you also tend to lose people along the way. What I found in my business is that the success of the business is wholly dependent on the quality of the people. And good people are really, really hard to find. Good people that you can trust are even harder to find. So when you find those people, you need to sort of adapt your leadership style to ensure that you motivate them using the right tools that are applicable to them, but at the same time that you make life good for them and you retain them because they make life good for you as a business owner.
Yeah, I mean, touching on our influence on our teams, there's always a lot said about aligning a team around a vision, and that's absolutely true. But I think there's a second piece that entrepreneurs and leaders in business often neglect, and that is to make your team feel that you're looking after their interest. I think we all respond to that. If you have somebody around you, whether it's a friend, a life partner, a leader, manager, and you truly feel that this person cares about your interest, they care about what happens to you, they care about your well-being, they care about your career, and their decisions and support and feedback are all aligned to that. Because if I receive feedback and I perceive and I feel that feedback as being manipulative, or I feel and then I won't respond to that feedback in a positive way. But if I receive that exact same feedback in a way where I feel that my leader or my manager or my coach is trying to help me to improve, even if the feedback is tough and delivered in a tough way, I will take that feedback in a significantly better way, and I will be inspired to be better for myself and for the cause that I work for.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then there's also the other factor, which is, as a business owner, you cannot make everyone happy, and one needs to accept the fact that making everyone happy is basically impossible. And at some point, people that you might or might not want to leave are going to outgrow your organization, are going to have things and dynamics in their life change. and life will take them down another journey. So you are going to lose people along the way, people that you might not want to lose, who have their own inspirations and ambitions, maybe to even become a competitor to you, and that's something that I find, it's hard not to take personally, but it is just the course of growing, and it's the course of the way that people in businesses operate.
Yeah, I think again, and this comes down to, when people feel that you do care about their interest, that that builds a relationship of trust that comes back and becomes part of your worth, your social worth. There's been a couple of instances in my business career where I've had people leave the organization, even though it was tough at the time and a knock for me. I let them go with my blessing and support, and those same people sometimes come back later, sometimes become very loyal clients, supporters. So the way we deal with people and the way we bless people on their journey and support them on the journey makes a big difference in our social capital and networks. At the end of the day, as a businessman, we just realize more and more how important network and influence and trust and strong relationships are.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've had this conversation with a few people over the last few weeks on the show, and it is that element that people need to bear in mind, whether you're an employee or you're a business owner, or whether you're just starting your career, or whether you're in varsity, wherever you are. It is being cognizant of the brand, your personal brand, and what that brand stands for. Because often you'll find that in the blink of an eye, 10 to 15 years goes past, and Willie Maritz and Sean Ammon are now connecting again. And it's all around the value of the experience that one had with each other at the time and what those personal brands represent. Because in any sort of transaction, even this one that we're having now on the podcast, there's an exchange of intellectual capital. There's an exchange of time, which is valuable. And in order to facilitate that, one needs to carry themselves in a way where they are amenable to people, and people appreciate what they bring to the table. So being and carrying your brand in a professional manner, even when you exit an organization, is so important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I can so resonate with what you said earlier about people that you've spoken to and that want to start a business, and they are so fired up when they start they're going to retire at an early age, and they're going to have all of this money, and they're going to have this massive international enterprise, and one realizes when you get into it that it's very easy to go, and I talk specifically to our sort of industry now in terms of professional services. It's very easy to put a fancy PowerPoint deck together that is mind-blowing, and it's very easy to have a very smooth sales pitch and be able to present that deck in a manner that makes people, excited. But having someone sign a contract and pay you money is something very different. It is very different. And to get to that point of being able to sign a contract, submit an invoice, and be paid, which is the mechanics of any business, is the normally the thing that humbles people the most, is understanding the sales cycle of their business.
Yes. The current two ventures that I'm busy with are number 7 and 8 for me. And if I had to put my finger on the one thing that actually pivots any business in from kind of struggling through the startup journey into success, is the process of learning how to sell what you have to offer. So firstly, of course, you build value. You build a product or a service that really meets a market demand. And you test and you make sure and you hone that and you shape that and you go that way and you go that way until you know that you have something that the market needs and wants and are prepared to pay for. Once you've got that, you need to learn how to sell it. And every single business is different. It's everything from the wording, the narrative, the channels. There is no recipe. And I have failed many, many times in terms of, I think it will work like this. And I go that journey, go through LinkedIn or go through this channel or speak to this. And you feel like you're just running into walls and you don't understand why, because I know my product is great. I know that people need this. And somehow I'm just not getting that traction in the sales process and getting this scale. But you have to keep on trying. And once you hit the right note and the right channel and use the right value proposition that actually lands with your client, then you can scale it. Then you can run faster with that and say, okay, now let's focus on this strategy. Let's scale this, and let's build. Let's take our value proposition to a wider target audience. And that's when businesses grow and move into real profitability and success.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Absolutely, 100%. What is your feeling on timing? I know in my experience, there's these two factors that very difficult to quantify. One is called luck and one is called timing, and often they are interlinked. And often you struggle and struggle and struggle, and especially at the startup phase of a business, and then these two factors of luck and timing somehow click. And the universe somehow delivers you to this point where, you have this breakthrough. Did you find that when you started Kaleo, you experienced that? You got to a point where everything just aligned and there was a breakthrough, but you had to persevere to get there?
Actually, I mean, I'm kind of thinking and unpacking what you're saying in the moment there. And there's something about this kind of approach or philosophy that doesn't really resonate with me. And I'll tell you why. I think if you go through the diligence of proper market validation of what you intend to do, then luck and timing become irrelevant. So luck and timing is relevant when you just have an idea and you say, okay, I'm going to go for it, no matter what, and you just go for it. You resign your job, you spend money to build the product, or build a team and whatever, and then run to the market and see if it works. If you take that approach to business, then yes, luck and timing will be a big factor, and you're taking really big risks. I think my approach to business has been a little bit different. I try to actually do proper research, validate the idea, build an early version or a minimum viable product, as it's often referred to, take that to the market, test that again, and iterate through the process of learning how to sell. And I think when you approach a business from that point of view and through that methodology, you end up reducing your risk significantly, and you are much less dependent on luck and timing. Maybe to add to that, I think often people look at entrepreneurs as risk takers, and I don't think I have a much bigger risk profile than the average person. I think I'm more of a risk manager than a risk taker, and especially when you want to build scalable big businesses where you need to bring in funding, you need to get external people to trust and go with you on your journey, both in terms of their resources, their money, and their funding. Then you need to be a good risk manager, and you need to show a journey that's based on good decision making, for them to actually trust in you, invest in you, and back you on the journey.
Yeah, and I must admit that it was a little bit unfair on my part. It was a bit of a leading question, without giving you a warning on it. And that's exactly the answer that I knew you would give, being as astute as you are. So, ladies and gentlemen, there's your answer in terms of this concept of, some people are lucky. Because I hear this a lot. Oh, this person is so lucky they've got the successful business. Or oh yeah, this one just hit the right thing at the right time. No, it does not work like that. It is about preparation, it's about research, it's about market analysis, it's about prototyping, all of the good things that Mr. Maritz has just told us. That is how you create this thing called luck or timing or whatever you want to call it. But it is not just pitching up at the right place, having a smile on your face and hoping that someone's going to support you. It doesn't work that way in the real world. Really, another thing that I wanted to get your views on. A lot of aspiring entrepreneurs, especially now in the digital age, have got technology solutions, products, concepts that are really feasible and really solve problems. And in many cases, they've even spent hours developing, in some cases rudimentary, in some cases quite mature prototypes. The challenge that they have is they just don't have the funding and the capital required to take this to market, to meet the demand at the time. So what's your view on funding? What have you learned over the years in terms of how funding can be accessible? And how does one overcome the innate fears related to owing people money, being responsible for other people's money, and losing control of your business? And I guess, even in my case, the thing I fear about is if the concept doesn't work, then what happens? Are you now responsible for the loss of everyone's money?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So there's a lot in that question. So I'll try and unpack it a little bit from the start. So firstly, the first part of your question is around how do you get moving when you have an idea but you actually just don't have funding. The first thing I want to say is that if you do have a good idea, it is absolutely possible to get funding. So the key criteria, maybe it would be worthwhile for me to just state this. The key criteria for you to get funding is a good idea that is well communicated and unpacked and laid out, backed by a good team or entrepreneur. So, because if somebody's going to put money into an idea, they want to make sure that, yes, that it's a good, viable idea, it's well structured and well thought through, and the person or persons who will take this idea forward are competent. So if you are struggling, if you have an idea or you think you have an idea and you're struggling nobody's interested in funding you, then one of those components are not there. And if that component is you, so let's say you have a great idea and it looks very viable, and the component is that the potential funders are they just don't believe that you are the right person to ride that horse, then you have to also be able to be honest with yourself and then maybe get the right horse involved with you, or pass the idea on, or somehow make that work. Because, and this is where we have to often be very honest with ourselves. Is it about me, or is it about the solution and the concept that I think I can bring to life? I don't know if you watch these shows like Shark Tank or these reality entrepreneurial shows. Quite often there are examples of entrepreneurs coming to this and they clearly have a good idea. And the sharks in the Shark Tank look at this and say, I like the idea, but I just don't think you're the guy to run with it. And they can maybe buy the idea off them, or bring in other people to support them to make that idea work. Anyway, so in short, those are the three criteria that you need to get funding and make an idea work. Depending on how much funding you have, so you can either have absolutely zero, you're in a very dire situation, or you might have some money, you might have some savings that can carry you for a while, or that can even fund the first version of a product, or you might already have quite a lot of capital behind you. So you have to also be very clear about where you are in that journey and how you adapt your requirements for getting an idea off the ground. So if you have absolutely nothing, don't despair, don't think that you are out of the game and it's not possible for you, because it is absolutely possible for you. Again, make sure that you articulate that idea very well. Don't be too scared to share your idea with the right people. I hear this a lot where somebody's like, oh, but I can't tell people about my idea because they're going to steal my idea. I mean, if you have nothing and you have an idea and you don't tell anybody about that idea, you don't get people to help you with that idea, you still have nothing and you will continue to have nothing. So you're going to have to take a risk, get the right people to listen to you, share with them transparently what your idea is and how you intend to get there. And then, so just have many conversations. And don't be afraid to ask for help. You can, so it's not, getting an idea off the ground is not only about funding, it's about so many ways of in how people can support you. You can have a conversation with somebody that might not be able to fund you, but they can refer you to somebody else. They can connect you with somebody that can help you unpack the idea or structure the idea in a better way. They can connect you with somebody that can maybe build the first version of the product for you without cost, but they will have a share in it or something like this. So be very open-minded about how you make your dream come alive. So focus on the dream and making that idea come alive, and focus less on control and power and fears. That's what I can say.
Yeah, that is priceless information right there, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, there's so many golden nuggets that one can take out of that. I think that I can so resonate to the point you made around, and I very much agreed with that viewpoint around don't tell anyone about your idea. Many years ago, and after going through a number of failures myself, I've also realized that you are limited. Let me put it this way: you are limited and constrained by the quantity and capacity of the stuff between your eyeballs. But the moment you have conversations with other people, especially if it's a complex situation and a complex problem you're trying to solve, the only way you deal with that complexity is by putting many minds together, by making the gray stuff 3 or 4 or 5 or 10. And the more you put, the more insights you get, the more you are able to quantify the feasibility, and the more in a better position you are to solve the problem. So having said that, my view is don't go out and tell the world. And you can be quite selective around the people that you bring into your circle of, a trust, if I can put it that way, and leverage off the network that you have, so that you can, it helps you look at things from a different dimension.
Correct, yes. And there's one key characteristic or attribute for an entrepreneur, and it's not an attribute. Sometimes if you use the word attribute, it assumes that it's something that you have or you don't have. But this attribute is something that everybody can have, they can develop, and they can focus on. And that's boldness. When I have entrepreneurs pitching ideas to me or pitching funding requests to me, it's probably the number one thing that I look at. Does this person have the boldness and audacity to ask for what they want? Approach people that they think they can help, get the idea unlocked. So if you know you need to speak to Elon Musk to unlock some idea, will this person have the audacity and the boldness to open all the doors that they can possibly do, make the calls, and try and get to speak to Elon Musk? So that's something that I've struggled with and tried to develop in myself as well. Quite often I've told myself, no, I don't have access to this, and this is not my league, and this person wouldn't want to speak to me, and I'm not worthy. And every time I've proven to myself, when I overcome that fear, when I step into boldness and ask for what I want, get to the people that I need to, then the doors are opening. So especially if you feel that you're not, you don't necessarily have the privilege of resources behind you, you need to be more bold than the next person to ask for and get what you want.
Can we share the story about Elon Musk?
Yeah, it's basically, so we in the current business that we are raising, Wingdot Studio, we were saying to ourselves that we want to speak to Elon Musk, or we want Elon Musk to know about this, and because there's a specific link, and we even quote Elon Musk in our narrative and so on. And one of my mentors then asked me, and he said, "But have you spoken to him yet?" And my reaction was like, well, actually, no, I don't think I can, or
Yeah.
and he challenged me. And the result was, get out there, make phone calls, get connections, and we got into that network, and we got a referral into the Elon Musk network, and now we are actually in a conversation with the Elon Musk schools, and actually hopefully building a partnership with that network after a specific Elon conversation with himself as well.
And you know what I love about that story is that it's not pie in the sky. What you've given us a piece of advice about being bold, but you've also walked the talk. You've been bold. You've made the call. You've spoken to the man. It must have been, really, really overwhelming, if I can put it that way. And but that is what's required. But that also comes from a state of being confident about your subject matter. You need to be at a point where you know your why, you know what the value is that you bring and the problem that you're solving. And, I think for a lot of people, this again comes down to the fact of that, that passion, the passion around what it is that you're doing. And often you find that entrepreneurs fail because they jump into something, and I know I'm going back to the point we raised earlier, but just to sort of close it, is entrepreneurs sometimes jump into something because they believe it's going to make their money. They're not passionate about it. They don't. So the passion doesn't fuel the boldness, doesn't fuel the determination and the perseverance, and the thing falls flat. And it was not because of timing, and it's not because of luck. It's because the fundamental why and was not substantial enough. So guys, I think that we can all take and I'm also taking some notes here. There's so many pearls of wisdom around being an entrepreneur, and being bold is definitely one thing that I can agree with. Put yourself out there. You've got nothing to lose. Worst case scenario, you're in exactly the same place that you are right now. So that there's nothing to lose, But on the upside, I find that more and more the business world has become amenable to growing networks and developing networks and leverage of the people that leverage of the people that they know, and leverage of the people that they know. There's many tiers to networks. And the only way to do that is to continually grow your network. And again, growing network comes back to the quality of your product, the quality of you, your personal brand. Do people want to work with you? You have to be cognizant of this. You have to understand what you represent. And you have to make sure that you walk that talk every single day, so that it's like when you go and you're buying a car, for example, and you're buying a Porsche, for example. A Porsche represents, that brand of Porsche represents so many things that you don't even, one just hears that name and it brings about certain emotions. And that's what we need to understand, is that your name, my name, Willie's name, brings around certain emotions, and you need to be aware that the way you carry yourself is what determines all of that. Mr. Maritz, now let's open the hood a bit here and get into your two new ventures. You want to give us a bit of an overview of what No More Courses aims to achieve in the market?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so nomorecourses.com is a venture that tackles a specific gap that we believe exists, and that exists around behavior change and changing attitudes. We are basically saying a course is good at teaching skill and knowledge, but sometimes you need more. Sometimes you need to change people's attitude. You need to get them to care. You need to get them to have a higher state of awareness around certain things. And the structure of a traditional course is not the right. It's not the right tool out of the toolbox to achieve that. So we basically combined the latest learning from social media science, the latest in behavioral psychology, and the latest in technology, the art of the possible in technology. So we developed a platform and mobile apps and a methodology that achieves that. So we are working at the moment in the areas of workplace safety and customer service and cultures of excellence, which, if you think about those topics, they're all topics that you want to impact at the level of attitudes and care and awareness, more so than just skill and knowledge. We frame that methodology with a very diligent process of measurement and tracking observable behavior changes. So in our methodologies, we roll out campaigns, we track observable behavior changes, feed that back to our clients. So far, we've been very, very successful. Every single campaign that we are running has proven to show observable behavior changes. And so that's a very exciting venture. I've got quite high hopes for it. And we're busy now scaling that out and rolling that out to a global target audience. Including the USA. We've been accepted into an accelerator in the USA where they're helping us to both raise the required capital and also scale and prepare for rollout to the North American market. The second business is called Wing.studio, and that is a very passion project of mine to help solve the global youth unemployment crisis. Of course, coming from South Africa, we all know how big that problem is and what the consequences of that problem are for economic security, political security, social well-being, morale, all of those things. So in short, what Wing.studio is, we are tackling the credibility problem for employers. We say that if we can reduce the risk for employers to give young people a chance, then they're more likely to give more opportunities for young people. So we do that by creating a platform where young people create a digital profile that's all about evidence of skill and attributes. And we gather that evidence out of social media style posts. So they can upload photos and pictures and videos of the awesome stuff they do, from gaming to sports and hobbies and volunteering and projects, as well as technical things in an academic context. And out of those social media posts, we extract and showcase that this specific activity, so let's say, for example, you do a beach cleanup volunteer day, we extract from that activity is evidence of coordination, teamwork, environmental consciousness, etc., etc. And we present that in a digital profile. Employers can now filter and find candidates based on these attributes and then look at the evidence of these attributes. And that for employers will increase the accuracy of sourcing young talent and get more young people into the workplace.
The nice thing about the problems that you're trying to solve with these technologies and these offerings is that it can be used in the corporate world, but it can be also used and applicable for pretty much anyone on a day-to-day basis.
Yes, absolutely. So we are currently rolling out to academic context, partnering with universities, partnering with youth projects, going directly to young people who want to start building up more credible profiles. And we're doing this across geographies. And at the moment, we're focusing on the South African market and the Middle Eastern market, specifically the UAE and Saudi Arabia. But we're already having conversations with government entities in a number of other countries as well who want us to roll out there as well.
Okay. Willie, the last, I'm just being cognizant of time, and the last aspect I wanted to speak to you about is a slightly softer aspect now that we've gone through some of the key points that we plan to cover. Tell me, what is life like? Because you live in Dubai, all right, at the moment?
That's correct, yes.
And so you live in Dubai, you've got business interests, and you've got business opportunities that you're rolling out in South Africa, you're busy in so your portfolio of Willie Maritz is quite diverse. How do you balance that out in terms of, I can assume that your workday is quite an intense day, but how does Willie Maritz balance it and get the balance in his life so that, your life is also, to use a lack of a better word, balanced?
One word or two words: amazing people. It really is all about the people that I have around me, my business partners, my colleagues, my team, even other support resources around me, mentors, friends, my life partner, all of these things together make up a context and an ecosystem that sets up success in these ventures. But yeah, you really need to surround yourself with people that can help you execute and that can get things done. And of course, I know many people know this very well, but I want to say this again. Don't surround your people who are like you and who are good at the same things as what you are. Get people who are different to you and who bring different skills and different strengths and different opinions and outlooks to the table. That's where the magic lies, and that's how you get big visions and big picture ambitions unfolded.
Yeah, and there we go, guys. What a way to conclude. Willie, thank you so much again for your time. I know you're incredibly busy, and you making time to be on my show is really, I'm really, really blessed to have you on here and sharing your wisdom around entrepreneurship. You are a hardcore entrepreneur, as we can hear, and you've learned the lessons. And I wish you all the success for all of your two new ventures going forward. And I hope that you one day are the next Elon Musk, sir.
Thank you, Sean. I really appreciate the time that to listen to me and to have a conversation, and on to the next one. Thank you very much.
Pleasure, man. And guys, as always, if you do one thing only, and that's stay inspired. Cheers.